Hello and welcome to The Thriller Zone. I'm your host, Dave Temple. Happy summer, or close to finishing the summer. Can you believe it? Where has this summer gone? Well, I'll tell you one thing. I have been working most of the summer. Yeah, I mean, show after show after show. Yeah, August, I slowed down a little bit. September, I'm taking off. Now, I'm pre-recording the show so that it will drop in September, which when you see this, of course, it will be September. How you doing? But yeah, wife and I are taking a little vacation, which you'll hear about inside the show as I speak with our guest, Lisa Gardner, who has written this smashing book, Kiss Her Goodbye. So stay tuned for that conversation in a moment, and we'll check back in with you in, October. I'm not going anywhere just yet. Just hang with me. Daddy needs a break. Daddy and Mama going to take a vacay. It's about time, right? Hey, listen, before we get going into the show, let me just say thank you so much for being there. I attended a podcast convention recently with my good friend Jonathan Ayala of Reframe.fm. And I realized something, that I have really thoroughly enjoyed recording this show. I really have. Excuse me while I take some water. And I've thoroughly enjoyed the show. 4 years in the making. Approaching 300 episodes. Somebody asked me the other day, how many books have you read? And I'm like, probably close to 300. Seriously. Even some of the books that never made it on the show, I was reading. A couple of things are going to change here. I'm not reading as many books as I would, as I have been. You know why? Because I'm writing my own books. That's right. Oh, you want to see it? No, I can't do that. I have been working on this book for some time. You're going to hear more about that inside the show too. But I realized, and I've been talking to a couple of my good friends, Jack Stewart, Anthony Goodell, a couple of different guys, Chris Haughty, and they keep saying to me, dude, why are you not spending more time writing? We know how much you love books and how much you love to write. And so after 4 years and a lot of gray hair, can you believe the color of my hair now versus when I started? I should pull up a picture of me when I first started this show, which would have been 21. Yeah, browner, much browner. But anyway, my point is, I want to do some more writing, and to do that writing, it takes research and travel, etc. So that's why you're going to see me bounce in and out. Anyway, I'm also working on something else, something very new, very fresh. I'll share that in the coming days. I realized I've just hit the 3-minute mark of babbling, and we got to get to the show. Lisa Gardner is a delightful gal. I love speaking with her. She's one of the good people, right? I mean, she's talented. Oh my goodness. I did learn a few things inside today's show that I haven't known before, so I think you're going to enjoy that. So without any further ado, this is your host, Dave Temple, saying thank you once again. Feel free to reach out at any time at thethrillerzone.com. And stay tuned for some new, fresh, new, fun stuff in the very near future. David, you're such a tease. All right, folks, here's Lisa Gardner on The Thriller Zone. That is so perfectly framed. Very nice top, very nice books display.
This poor book cover is actually a little too shiny. We're going to do this. We're going to put in the non-glossy.
You've been at this a while. Plus, I'll hold this up from time to time, and I'll tilt it forward. I used to be a QVC host, so I used to.
You know how to handle the gloss.
You got to do that. You got to handle it like this. One hand here, one hand here. Always have a manicure and tilt forward. Yeah.
Oh, I don't even have the manicure. I have gardening hands. Oh, no.
You know one thing, by the way, we're starting. Welcome to the Thriller Zone. Welcome back.
Thank you, David. I'm happy we're able to make this work out.
Yes, thank you. You know, one thing I don't always do, which I did with you this time, I went back to your acknowledgments, and I always find every once in a while I go in there and I'm like, who are these cats hanging out with and studying with and thanking? And one thing here, I think I knew this, but in March of 23, let's see, we got together, and I think the last time we talked, it was March of 24. So we may have met.
That would make sense.
Yeah, March 24.
The last book, yeah.
But were you literally playing with gray whales in Baja's California Magdalena Bay?
Oh, it was a fabulous trip. You go out and it was National Geographic and you just sit in little boats and the whales will come choose you. So particularly the younger whales will play with the boats. We had one day a large whale. It was blowing bubbles. They'll dive under and around and they're just curious and they just seem to enjoy, amusing themselves.
Wow. Two things come to my mind. Whales and dolphins have this love of humans, and then on top of that, something that completely surprised me. And if you trust Instagram, Lisa, if you trust
Yeah.
Instagram, I'm watching all these people hanging out with sharks. And come to find out, I always thought the sharks are predators and we're just going to eat you regardless. But some of these cats are under the water petting the sharks' noses. And, some of them have rescued them in the past and the sharks know how to find them again. So they're operating on a different frequency that we are.
As a thriller author, perhaps I should be petting sharks, but I might not actually be that brave a traveler. And I've done some pretty weird things.
I'm going to stick to petting dogs. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
I have mine on my lap in position right now.
And what kind of dog do we have?
I have a little Cairn Terrier, like a Toto.
Nice. Oh, I love it. Well, Kiss her goodbye. Fantastic read. We're gonna jump in here just to make sure we get everything done. But referencing this research that you do, because Baja was research, right? Research.
Absolutely.
Okay. I know that you're a research junkie, and it shines in this book. So I'm going to come out with some heavy questions, and I'm going to back off. But between this refugee experience, the trauma forensic detail, this book feels. The only word I could think of, because I always try to do this, I read the book, I take my notes, then I go, how did it hit you? What does it make you feel? I'm like, this feels lived in. This feels real. This feels organic. It feels a little bit more like I'm watching a movie rather than reading a book, which to me, that's the best compliment I could give you. And so to that point, how do you think your dedication to this craft, the research, the digging so deep into real worlds, shapes that emotional, psychological depth, which it does in spades, of both Sabera, I hope I'm saying this, Sabera and Zara's characters?
So for me, Kiss Her Goodbye was the most intense research I've done because it was also different.
Yeah.
I mean, to your point, I love to research, but being a thriller author, generally it's procedural. I'm with the FBI or the police or a SWAT team. It's all really good stuff, but I'm learning how to do something. Well, to write this book about Afghan refugees and the experience of coming to the United States, and then I started to realize it is a family story. So who they were also in Afghanistan was interviewing people. I felt like I got to be like my heroine, Frankie Elkin, a little bit.
Yeah.
My job was I had friends that were connecting me with various refugees, and I was amazed they were willing to talk. And then my job was to listen and just absorb their stories. And oh my goodness, the heartbreak. I mean, it's going to be heartbreaking, but I mean, there were sessions I just cried at the end. Sometimes I cried with them at the end. I mean, it's a level of loss to lose your entire country, your extended family, your culture. And I mean, Kabul fell in like 8 hours. Like it'd be like New York City was there in the morning and not in the afternoon. Like I can't even wrap my brain around it.
And to that point, as Americans, I think we take so much for granted because we live in this safe, open society where a lot of freedom is enjoyed. And when I read this story and I think about the folks in, I dropped the word, Ukraine,
Yeah.
you realize what we take for granted and how we shouldn't. And back to my point in your acknowledgments, the volume of people that you thanked, which told me that all of this was verified, justified all along the way, it's kind of mind blowing.
I was so blown away by how many people were willing to talk to me.
Yeah.
And it was also really interesting too, because some things were challenging. When I start talking to refugees, a big, big chunk of the refugee experience, I mean, because it takes years to finally get placed in the United States or anywhere in the world. It's a UN designation. It's legally recognized, but you have to wait for your placement. You're spending that time in a refugee camp. And one of the first thing all the volunteer coordinators told me when I was speaking to the refugees here in the US that had been placed was, don't ask about the refugee camps. They will not speak of it. It's too traumatic. It would be a rude thing to do for them to put them back in that. So don't ask about the refugee camps. So now I'm like, but I can't, relate this experience without talking about the refugee camps.
Right.
But actually, the sister of my editor had volunteered in one. And after talking to her and getting hooked up with people like from Doctors Without Borders,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hearing about those experiences was in many ways even more mind-boggling because, some of these refugee camps, they're like 1,000% overcrowded, but they work because of the volunteers, because of the refugees stepping up to help other refugees. What I learned is there are a lot of Frankie Elkins out there in the world. There are a lot of strangers who've committed themselves to helping strangers.
Yeah. And thank God for that, right?
Yes.
At the heart, as we know, for those who have read it or consider reading it, is a missing mom and her daughter who won't give up. Do you connect more with the mystery itself or the mother-daughter bond? And I know that's kind of an odd question, but I think you know what I'm saying there.
I feel the mystery doesn't work if you're not connected to that mother-daughter bond. That
Yeah.
the whole point with a great thriller is what's at stake.
Right.
We like the academic puzzle, the fact that there's codes in this book, and the little girl even has this very cool riddle that I didn't actually know the answer to for a while. That's the fun stuff. But you get connected and tied into it because of the mother-daughter and because it's something we can relate to as a parent, as a person.
The heartbreak and heartbreak potential is what we all relate to. And that's
Yeah.
one thing I walked away with. And that's, it's so funny. We read thrillers to turn the pages and to escape and so forth. But when you get a chance to be thrilled and moved at the same time, which doesn't happen, if I'm reading 2 books a week, I don't run across that every month is what I'm saying, Lisa.
Yeah.
There is some heart. There is a lot of heart in a lot of the books, but there isn't the dramatic heart, loss, pain like in this book. And the other thing is, Frankie never stays in one place very long. Makes me think of my radio career when I'm bouncing all over the country. But I'm like, do you think that kind of drifting makes her stronger or just more lonely?
What I love about Frankie is I'm still learning her. I think we all are. She's an everyday person on this crazy mission, to search for the vanish that nobody else is even looking for. And it bounces her around, but in a way I think she needs. I think Frankie, if she stays in one place too long, it's almost like gets itchy. And that's when sobriety and returning to drinking become more and more of an issue for her. So kind of being this rolling stone, and I think we can all relate, it's easier to solve other people's problems. It's a great way to kind of avoid your own. Maybe it's not the best method out there, but it's working for Frankie.
You put it well because you know what? Let me solve your problem because, geez, I do not want to put a mirror in my face.
Exactly.
Another thing I loved about this, and living in a Mediterranean kind of climate as I do in San Diego, and we visit the desert a lot because our family's out there. The feeling of desert was so vivid. I could feel the heat coming off the page. And I get that it showed Frankie being out of her element, but I have to believe, again, circling back to my opening comment, this has to be a reflection of the love of your love of desert and your travels. That's one thing I love about your books is I always know, okay, if Lisa's talking about blank, 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 she's lived it.
I love Tucson, though I'll admit one of the reasons I read about the heat so much is from the mountains of New Hampshire. It was shocking. Knowing what it's going to be. Every time I walked out the door, it's like, oh, yeah, that's right again. It was just, I found it to be a very visceral experience. So it's possible that is communicated on the pages of this thriller.
And I got to bring this up just as a little side note. I was in Dallas last week for a podcast convention, and I'm used to 72 to about 78 every single day except maybe the dead of summer. Oddly, it's reverse. But I stepped off that plane. It was 105 with 98.5% humidity. And I had forgotten, even being from the South, just how that could smack you in the face.
Yes, yes, exactly. I
No
like
reason.
using the location, though, as also part of the stress. I mean, for Frankie, yeah, this is very stressful because not used to it. But also when you talk about these families that are being placed and basically, the murder unit means you're lucky because you got a cheap apartment. But, the ACs are barely working. I mean, again, the amount of physical, financial, emotional pressure on these families. And I think the best thrillers, the best stories come from that place.
Now, this next question is going to feel like Captain Obvious. And I feel like I should be wearing a cap going, you can call me Captain Obvious. But Zara's determination to find her mom hit me. But did it make you think, and again, this is Captain Obvious, did it make you think about how far you would go if what you'd have to risk for family? And I have to believe you did, because to be able to put that viscerally on the page is your craft.
Well, and what I loved when I was writing it is I didn't really know what to do with Zara, a 4-year-old girl. And we need her because you have to have a heart to the story.
Right.
You really need a compelling reason why Frankie shouldn't just be looking for this missing mom, but she must find her. This 4 little girl who was born in a refugee camp, whose entire life has been trauma, needs her mom back. And it's a little like, I don't know, Charles Dickens. It's like, well, yeah, okay. So at a certain point, I'm like, no, we actually need to know who Zara needs to be her own person too, her own character. And it is a family we learn of kind of intellectual superpowers. The father's this brilliant mathematician. The missing mom has this gift with languages. It's like, Zara needs a gift. And for her, it's memory, because what a
Yeah.
curse also. And it does make her this old soul. And I just love when she first meets Frankie, and Frankie's like, I swear she's looking right inside, and she already knows every hope, regret, love, loss I've ever experienced in 30 seconds.
Yeah. It's funny, you just used the exact 4-letter word that I said. If there was a tent pole holding this story up, it would be the word hope. Would
Yeah.
you agree with that? Yeah.
Absolutely. Because
Yeah.
that's the other thing. For all the heartbreaking stories I heard, to our point, everyone was so grateful to be here. I
Yeah.
mean, you don't know will you be placed. So to be placed in America is like winning the lottery. We remain such a beacon of hope. And these families have come from a terrible place. They're facing terrible odds. But here, there really is the stability. You know, it's going to be tough going in the beginning, but they can work. They do have a roof over their head. They do have access to food. I mean, they can start making a new future for their family. And that is what it's all about. It's all about their children, their future, and feeling safe again.
Well, another point that it happens in all of your books. Now, I have not read every single one of your books, Lisa. I've tried. I just don't have the time. There's so many of them.
I've been busy.
But in all your books, your love of travel shines. Do you find, can you imagine yourself writing a book that does not involve travel? In other words, I'm going to sit down and do something maybe completely different, but that does not involve that number one passion of yours. I can't imagine it.
For me, it's the refresher. I mean, to your point, I've been a writer for 35 years now. I've written a lot of thrillers. So travel is often what I do right after finishing one book to kind of refill the well. And sometimes it's ending up at a location that's so cool. Like last time we spoke, a remote atoll, which became the setting for Still See You Everywhere. This time it was meeting this couple. And over dinner, they're talking about their volunteer work with Afghan refugees in Tucson. And the more they talk about the obstacles and what this is really like I think I know what refugees, but then when they were done talking, it's like, oh, I barely knew anything. It's like, oh my God, this is the perfect Frankie story.
Well, Again, not to make it about me, but my wife and I are going to finally take a vacation.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
our honeymoon, if you want to be really inside scoop on it. We've only been planning this for about 8 years, Lisa. We're finally going to do it. But we're going to London. So, what could I study in London? And that's the first leg. That's the first week. By the way, folks, I'm going to put this now. If you don't hear from me much in September, it's because I'm taking the entire month off. But London,
Nice.
what have you done in London that you go, David, inside scoop, you got to do this.
Well, and that way I'm kind of a boring traveler for you because what I love to do in London, any place, is just walk around. And actually, London, I love the parks. I
Nice.
mean, what an amazing collection of, and I mean, the trees are hundreds of years old, and the collection of the ducks in the, what is it, the St. James Park. I mean, I can do, it's like you came all the way to London to be in parks. And it's like, yes, and it was great. And buy a little snack at a cafe and sit in the park
Yeah.
and watch the people. I'm a people watcher. So,
Yeah.
and then the next book writes itself.
So let's see, 35 books. You must have started when you were about 7 years old. So here's my question. There's a couple things that as I was meditating over coffee this morning, I'm like, I want to ask Lisa, outside of just standard questions, like, what would you write if you weren't writing a thriller? So hold that one for a second. There's bound to be, I know a writer is a writer and will write anything no matter what. So I'd like to know what it would be if you weren't doing that. Number two, do you ever say to yourself, is there ever a moment where you're afraid, where you go, oh, Jesus, I'm not going to be able to pull anything out this time? Uh, I know the gray matter is working. I just don't have anything. So two-part question.
One of the things you get with time as a writer is you learn what helps you get in the groove or get unstuck, because
Mhm.
it definitely does happen. For me, it's one of the reasons I live in the mountains. Anytime I'm stuck with a book where I need the next idea, like what is going to happen tomorrow in this novel, because I don't plot. So I'm having to find it each day, that's hiking the mountains. It's taking my dogs and hitting the trails. And by the end of it, okay, now I got it. This is what we're going to do. So
Okay, well, hold on a second. Tap the brakes. You don't plot. You just sit down and whip these 400 and 400 pages of deliciousness just like that?
I would like to say like that, but it's more like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 6 steps back. It is a messy, iterative, lots of revision along the way. And then there's this, all these years later, there's still this magic moment. And it's generally toward the end where you're all of a sudden, I know what this book is actually about. I actually, even better, I know who did it because I don't tell that. And the fact that, you just always get that magic moment. I think I come back for that as much as anything.
And so back to the fear point, is there anything that you just go, that you wake up, you sit down at the blank page / screen, and just something, what's the note I wrote? The note very specific was, what are you afraid of? What do you fear? I wrote it down here because I want to make sure I'm very specific. Hold on, here it is. How do you keep the fear of failure at bay, and what's your biggest fear of writing?
This is why I love belonging to writing communities, because the fear of failure and the sense of the imposter syndrome, we call it, looms very large. And I think for any artist probably is true. I think it helps for me that I'm a character-based writer. So weirdly enough, I think of this less as my book, or at a certain point, this is Sabra's story. This is Frankie's story. And I'm just trying to get their story out for them. And having a little bit of a distance makes it less daunting.
It's so funny. When I started writing, and I've got 9 self-pubbed under my belt now, I was all about, make the setting the star and make sure you have all the descriptive words you possibly can.
Oh, and I
And with
second that.
time, I know. Sorry, hey, I'm pulling my pants down here. But 10 years, 20 years later, 10 years later plus, I go, all right, Dave, well, what kind of books do you really enjoy reading? I'm like, no. I like the books that you walked into a park, it's dark,
Yeah.
a sound is in the far distance. I got scared. You don't have to tell me what color
Yeah.
So, and your stories do that, because here it is, characters. if I'm interested in the characters, I don't care what the bloody hell you do. I don't care if you're sitting in a room just talking and you do that for a few pages. Honestly, I mean, as much as I love to rip pages, if I love those characters, if I'm drawn to those characters, and you're making me inspired or thinking or feeling or hurting or crying or laughing by the actions of those characters, I'm in.
And that's how I am also even as a reader. So it's one of the things, I mean, I don't actually care about genre. I'll read anything. It's the person. If I care about the character, we can be fantasy, we can be thriller, we can be cozy mystery, we can be coming of age. And so for me, it has always been about the character.
All right, now I asked you a question and then I bounced
Okay.
over it, and I'll let you slip, but I'm going to come back around. So, if you weren't writing thrillers, mysteries, suspense, and you can share it with me, we're girlfriends, you can say that. What would you be doing?
Well, I've had many people suggest, and I kind of toss it around the back of my head. I love my dogs and animals, and I've done animal rescue work. And they're like, you tell funny little stories about your dog. Like it'd be great to do like a dog book of some kind, or and I don't like where the dogs are the characters kind of thing. And it's like that would be kind of fun, or a children's book, something like that. I don't know. It'd be fun.
Oh, come on. I would so read that. I mean, we have a 12, 13, 14-month-old yellow lab, and oh wait,
Aw,
I'm gonna have to, there
oh
she
my
is.
goodness, adorable.
Now, of course,
Aw.
this is at, 6 months, but and I've had dogs in the past, but there's something magical about this dog, something just magical, the way she'll look at me and sometimes
Yeah.
talk to me. Okay, kids, I'm not really crazy. But I would love that, Lisa. I don't know your little stories from your friends, but I would challenge you on a whim, on a funsy. I mean, you're established enough as a baller writer. You can do kind of whatever the hell you want to. So why not?
It's in the, it's something I think about. But in the meantime, for the record, the character that surprised me the most in Kiss Her Goodbye that I actually threw in to challenge myself and Frankie was Petunia, the green iguana. Because I had a friend who had iguanas and loved them and kept telling stories out. The iguanas sit on his lap and he could pet the iguanas. I'm like, you're insane. Dogs sit on laps. Iguanas should be outside, not on your lap. And I have to say, Petunia, I mean, I loved Petunia by the end. I am all up on my iguanas now.
The juxtaposition of Petunia for an iguana
Yeah.
would that be like if you had a bull mastiff and you called it Puff,
Yeah.
or Muffin.
Petunia has attitude, and we learned Petunia has some skills too. So, I mean, I know I'm like all about iguana now.
All right. Well, as we start to wrap, I asked you this before back in March, and I'm going to ask it again only because, and I did not remember you were a pantser. What is that best writing advice that maybe you have a sticky note on your desk, maybe you have a pillow needle pointed across the room. I don't even know if you're into that or not. But a mantra that you live by, something that that you tell a good friend, maybe not that you're going to tell a room full of strangers at a conference, but you'd say, hey, Sally, my good friend, if you had a friend named Sally, here's my best writing advice if you want to do it.
Just reach the end. It can be awful. It can be the shitty draft, we call it the vomit draft, but you have to get to the end because then you can fix it. But if you write a ton of short little, even the best words in the world or the best scenes, but you never actually produce a book, it doesn't matter how brilliant those scenes are. There's nothing you can do with them.
Folks, stitch that on a pillow. It's funny. I started yesterday about 5:00 in the morning. I finished last night around 8. I'm building a website. I'm doing a few other things for some people. But I'm also working on a book. And at about 7:00 last night, I pulled out my book and I'm looking at my notes, and I don't know what it was, why, out of nowhere. I was going through my notes and I'm going, oh shit, this big chunk right here makes no sense. Like it makes sense, but it belongs maybe up there or there. And I started getting freaked out and I'm like, well, that's like 12,000 words. I can't just toss that aside. So to your point, I thought, okay, let's just stop right now. By then it was about 8:30. I'd had
Yeah.
enough. Go to bed, get up in the morning, get it fresh eyes, hit it again and go, hey, at least you had all this written to your point. Now you
Yeah.
can just trim it out.
Yeah. And it is weird. There's sometimes I've written things and realized, oh, no, wait, that should be the beginning or that should be the middle. You have it. That's what you want to start with. And you need to give yourself permission to write badly as long as you make it to the end.
And see, this is kind of funny because, and I'm going to sound like a real idiot saying this, but I look at someone like you with your kind of track record and tenure, and I go, well, she doesn't have any problems anymore. I'm sure there are my listeners are going, she's an old pro. She doesn't run into that. So when I hear you go, oh my God,
Mm.
it gives me
This
hope.
book,
So,
yeah, Kiss Her Goodbye tortured me. It was so different and then you learn so much and now you're bogging it down and trying to find the heart of the novel, which really it has to be the family. I mean, I feel like I wrote like 5 books to be able to give you this one, Kiss Her Goodbye. And that's highly, highly inefficient, especially for someone who's been doing this for 35
yeah.
years.
Are you at a place, Lisa, as we close, are you at a place where you can, and I know, look, we're all about Kiss Her Goodbye, folks. You're going to want to get this. Tilting. You want to get this and read it. You'll enjoy it. But is there something you're working on right now we can hear about?
I'm actually really excited for my next novel, which will be a standalone for the first time in a long time. And it takes place in the mountains of New Hampshire. And I love the Gothics and I grew up with romantic suspense and things like that. So it's the mysterious young couple that buys this rundown lodge that was the site of an infamous unsolved mystery where a family of 6 disappeared in the middle of the night and there's bloody footprints everywhere. And there's a stray dog named Dog that knows things no dog should know. I mean, it is really a lot of fun.
Oh, wow. And estimated drop date 26?
Next year. Yeah,
Okay.
probably August 2026. That's the
Okay.
plan. If you know who did it, feel free to tell me.
Lisa, thank you so much. Folks, if you want to know more, go to lisagardner.com. Lisa, as always, such a pleasure and good luck to you here.
So much fun. Enjoy your honeymoon.
Thank you. About time, right?
Yes. Thank you.